Top of the morning, Dan and Amy and FBI Director Christopher Wray whistled before House Homeland Security Committee to try to a play by House Democrats to help them propagate their Russian collusion narrative, run interference on the work of Senate Homeland Security Committee Chairman Ron Johnson as it pertains to one Hunter Biden and his foreign dealings. Here's what Christopher Wray had to say about the upcoming election and Russian meddling.
Thank you. Can you tell me if, as of this date, you have information that Russia is trying to influence the election for 2020?
Yes, I think the intelligence community's consensus is that Russia continues to try to influence our elections, primarily through what we would call malign foreign influence, as opposed to what we saw in 2016, where there was also an effort to target election infrastructure, cyber targeting. We have not seen that second part yet this year or this cycle. But we certainly have seen very active efforts by the Russians to influence our election in 2020 through what I would call more the malign foreign influence side of things. Social media, use of proxies, state media, online journals, et cetera.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on in this country, too, in a lot of directions. President Trump tweeting out in response to Ray's testimony. But, Chris, you don't see any activity from China, even though it is a far greater threat than Russia. They will both, plus others, be able to interfere in our 2020 election with our totally vulnerable, unsolicited, parentheses, counterfeit, question mark, ballot scam. Check it out.
Well, I mean, Ray also said that the FBI has not found any evidence that Russia's trying to directly interfere with the election, through things like voting machines and voter databases.
Right.
So what kind of real threat is this?
Well, these foreign our enemies, foreign and domestic, have a desire to impact the outcome of an American presidential election. This is not new, and it should be treated seriously, but also understood proportionally at least, and also understood in context, and that's where Kim Strassel comes in. Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats in full Pagliacci over a forthcoming report from Homeland Security Chairman Ron Johnson on Hunter Biden and his dealings. Johnson will soon release the findings of his investigation into Biden family's dealings with Ukraine, which is why Democrats are terrified, writes Strassel in the Wall Street Journal, again played the cracked and moldy Russia card. The effort to smear and delegitimize Mr. Johnson ramped up in the summer when Democrats and the Gang of Eight congressional intelligence leaders sent a letter to the FBI expressing concern Congress had become the target of a concerted foreign interference campaign. They think that they're making the claims that Johnson and Grassley, Chuck Grassley as well, receiving information from Ukrainians compromised by the Kremlin. It's not true. Not true, and both Johnson and Grassley have stated as such. So what you have, as Strassel notably points out, is Schumer and allies in the media spreading Russian disinformation to spread disinformation about the GOP, to try to run interference for whatever may come from Johnson's report as it pertains to Hunter Biden's business dealings overseas and potentially any indication that those business dealings were overtly sponsored by his father, the vice president at the time. Over at justthenews.com, John Solomon reporting that the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is a Treasury Department agency that polices financial threats such as money laundering, flagged several foreign transactions to Hunter Biden-connected businesses as suspicious during the end of the Obama administration and the beginning of the Trump administration. As those Senate investigations I just mentioned move toward their conclusion, the question emerges, Solomon raises, did U.S. law enforcement or intelligence agencies do anything to determine if the money flowing to VP Joe Biden's son posed any criminal or intelligent threats? Officials at Treasury FBI Office of D&I have declined comment as of now. For more on all of this in the context of 11-3, We're pleased to be joined by Bret Baier, Fox News anchor, best-selling author of 3 Days at the Brink, FDR's Daring Gamble to Win World War II. Bret, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
I know that's a lot to unpack, and it's unlikely, I suppose, with everything else going on that's of more important people's lives, that this will maybe get the play it would have gotten if we hadn't had a pandemic, if we hadn't had the violence on America's streets. But it's nonetheless a substantive issue, as is the treatment of it by elected leaders on the Hill.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is substantive. There will be a report. Listen, I think Mitt Romney has spoken out about the timing of it. He doesn't like it. But when are you going to do it? I mean, this is the conclusion of it. And it happens to be, 40 plus days to an election. So, listen, it's not going to get covered. I can just tell you that right now. I mean, we're going to cover it, right, and we're going to do it, but it's not going to get like full-blown coverage. It's going to get Republicans, release, their findings, and then it'll be, a blip in the road to distract from COVID numbers or something.
And then, I predict. Yeah, no, I think you're probably right on that. And so then why Lindsey Graham is whistling Jim Comey before his committee the end of this month to do another? I mean, is this Lindsey Graham just focused on his reelection and looking tough for his South Carolina voters? Because what's that going to accomplish? Nothing.
No. I mean, do you know how many times Jim Comey has testified?
Too many.
If you think that he said yes without a subpoena because this is the one where he's going to get cornered, I don't see it. I mean, I just think, it's a chance we're going to all take it live, and Lindsey Graham's going to run the show, and it's going to be Lindsey Graham on TV for a long period of time. Now, I could be wrong. Let's say they have something and they actually get some substance out of it, but I just know that all of the past times that Jim Comey has testified, it has been like Chinese food. You eat it, and you feel hungry after a while.
Yeah. Some shows just don't hold up over time. They were fun in the moment, but you go back and watch them again, and it's just like, what was I thinking? This is terrible. So on the more pressing issue, especially since there's so many apocalyptic predictions going back, coming from both sides about the November 3rd election, the administration of it, the mail-in piece of it, the counting of the votes piece of it, the war games piece of it that plays out all kinds of dystopian scenarios about the end of the Republic sometime between November 3rd and January 20th. What from the folks that you talk to that are a little bit more measured on these topics, is it that the parties are really thinking and saying, the leadership on the Hill in terms of November 3rd and how they're game planning it?
Well, one, both parties are hoping for a landslide, either one, because that would make it a little easier. If you know definitively that somebody's got 270 electoral votes, it makes it a lot easier. Two, I think that we are in for, if it's not that, if it's a close race, which it looks like it will be, we're in for a few days of not knowing. And that potentially can get, we saw what happened with the recount in Tallahassee, and I was down there. I mean, the presidency hanging in the balance, and people holding up chads, hanging chads. I think that take that times 10 battleground states, 3 of which have not done real absentee ballot, in big numbers before. I think you're going to run into troubles, and the hope for both parties is that it's a clear winner, but it might not be.
And then let's talk about the timing of this, a possible vaccine, because that's been a big part of this. 8 companies, part of Operation Warp Speed, 3 are in their final trials, including Pfizer. The CEO coming out saying again, we'll know if it works at the end of October. That doesn't mean that there's going to be a vaccine. Why does President Trump, you think, keep telling the American people that we're going to have a vaccine at the end of October?
Yeah. Well, I think, you have to listen to what President Trump says and what they do. And they're sometimes two different things. I think they're saying if they get a vaccine that works by the end of October, that they'll be able to distribute it by the end of the year because they have this warp speed and where they're going to make millions of doses of this vaccine to be distributed. Now, I think that we're caught on the semantics of between the CDC director and the president. Oh, yeah. He's trying to, say they're ready to go and they're going to full blast. The CDC director is giving some honest take that all Americans are not going to get the vaccine probably until Q2 of 2021. I don't think we're far apart as far as what they're actually talking about. And the bottom line is we should be focused on how fast they're getting this vaccine. I mean, it's truly remarkable that this process has been sped up to this level.
Yeah. The parsing of words. Speaking of which, Attorney General Barr suggesting that the infringement on liberties under the attendant to the pandemic is the greatest infringement on civil liberties of Americans since slavery, since the Civil War. That's drawing howls from the left. I mean, is this sort of the same sort of moral panic that you're going to get regardless of what you say or don't say, what you do or don't do, much like Ron Johnson's being accused of being a Russian agent by Chuck Schumer?
Yeah, I mean, Barr is now in the full-on, Democrats are attacking him for being the president's lawyer, for saying, things. And I've talked to the Attorney General. He really doesn't care. And so he's just letting it rip.
That comes across.
And so he's just letting it rip. And yeah, he did that, but there was a thing in there. He said it's not like slavery. It's just the biggest infringement on civil rights since.
Yes,
and,
right.
People just twist words and it becomes a headline.
I wanted to get your take on Joe Biden's performance at CNN town hall. I mean, it wasn't he didn't turn into Winston Churchill, but he wasn't Winston Churchill when he was 30, so I wouldn't expect him to be Winston Churchill now. But he got through it okay. Not much controversy really to be had. And perhaps not particularly hard questions. It'll be different dynamic when you're going one-on-one on a debate stage. But still, I mean, it speaks to this idea that that the Trump campaign maybe should temper he's going to collapse on stage as soon as he sees the sights of Trump on September 29th.
Quickly, they need to change that gear because if you're a Trump supporter, you are listening to the president at every stop saying that Joe Biden has lost it and he's not able to perform. And essentially, if Joe Biden shows up to the debate and doesn't drool on himself, that is a win, and for the Biden campaign. And last night he showed that he could get through it. Now, I agree with you. I don't think it was exactly pressing, but town halls can be like that. And it also wasn't newsworthy as far as breaking news, but he did make it through, and if that's the bar, he's gonna win.
And he's been debating. I mean, during the primaries, how many debates did they have? 5, 6?
Yeah, they had like 5, I think, 5 total debates, and none of them were like stellar, where you came off and said, "Wow, he won that debate," but you came off saying, "Wow, he didn't lose."
Yeah. Different dynamic though, one-on-one for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and there's nowhere to hide, and Trump's just a different animal altogether than the collection of socialists who generally agree with you and are just trying to figure out ways to, pick you apart like Kamala Harris did once upon a time.
And different moderator and Chris Wallace. I mean, he's not gonna let him slide with "Come on, man" or folks, or whatever.
He's not going to let him roll a teleprompter on stage either. No.
There will not be a teleprompter on stage.
Well, at least Chris Wallace will finally get that interview with Joe Biden.
Another
that
one.
He's been trying to get. Yeah,
and maybe Joe Biden will remember his name this time. Bret Baier, Fox News anchor, special report, 5 p.m. Chicago time, weekdays. Number 1 best-selling author of 3 Days at the Brink, FDR's Daring Gamble to Win WW2. Bret, thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
There are a lot of tough questions when thinking about caring for aging parents or loved ones. Most importantly, can they stay safe at home? With Home Care Angels Home Services, they can. Home Care Angels has been caring for seniors in their homes with compassionate and holistic non-medical care for the past 15 years. The Home Care Angel caregivers are certified in dementia care, COVID-19, and in-home care. You'll get highly qualified caregivers carefully selected for your loved ones to help with activities of daily living, meal prep, light housekeeping, or 24/7 live-in care. Due to COVID-19, they've taken extra precautions and implemented protocols consistent with CDC guidelines to ensure the quality and safety of all their clients. Home Care Angels is in Des Plaines, Illinois, and services all of Chicagoland and the suburbs. To request a free in-home assessment, call 847-824-5221. That's 847-824-5221. Home Care Angels is a proud member of the Home Care Association of America.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
Now, I'm over 50, and I've tried lots of supplements in the past, and I've never had anything